Hear that? Running. You hear that? Squeak, squeak, squeak. Let's see what it is. Let me shut it off. Alright. Now I get a lot of farm trucks and stuff like that, like trucks that are just used on the farm. You know, not farm truck and Asian. I wish I got something like that coming in, but I don't. This is a Ford F150 with a 4.6 or a 5.4, whatever it is. It's a 4.6, okay. So these are actually, these and the 2-valve 5.4s are not bad motors. Still doggy on power compared to the Chevy 4.8 and 5.3s, but they're not bad motors. When you get to the 3 valves, those are garbage. But so anyway, we get a lot of these things in, and they're farm trucks. They're used on the farm. They don't really drive much on the highway. They're just used like on the farms to do whatever they need to do. And these people in particular, they use this thing quite a bit. They have quite a bit of property, and they probably have a dozen trucks that only stay on the property, this being one of them. So they dropped it off because the brake pedal is really mushy. It's a weird feeling. It's like you hit it slow and it slowly goes to the floor, just about. Not quite to the floor, but if you hit it quick, it stops. And I don't think it's the master cylinder. It could be. It's just, it doesn't feel like a normal master cylinder would. Because even normal, if it's a master cylinder, normally if you hit it fast and it stops and you just sit there, eventually it'll creep down. This one doesn't do that. So I'm just curious as to what it is. I don't know what it is. Could be a master. Could be a caliper too. We're going to find out. But anyway, as far as that noise goes, I heard it. I took it for a ride. And I was like, all right, it probably needs a belt or something. Maybe a tensioner. Who knows? Let's take a look. So I get it in. I open up the hood. I'm going to show you what I found. So here it is. I mean, it's dirty. You can see it's messy. It's dirty. I expect that. That's kind of what we get with these things. So come over here to the belt area, and I come down to the tensioner. And if you notice, let me shine that extra light on it. Like I could see, the belt itself has a bunch of cracks, and it's kind of hard to see it on the through the camera's eye here. You can see some there. But I also noticed, can you see that like metal dust looking? Yeah, there you go. Now look at the tensioner itself, right where it meets the front cover. Can you see that? Oops. The tensioner bearing for the pulley is blown out of it. It's not even there. And the tensioner pulley is grinding through the timing cover. So, yeah, it's a good thing they brought it in, because this thing would have bored a hole right through the timing cover. So I'm going to have to get a tensioner and a belt and get this thing apart and see what's going on there. So that's going to be first step. So let me get that ordered and on the way. Actually, let me give the truck a full look over it, and then I'm going to get that ordered and on the way. And I won't take it apart until I have the parts in my hand. All right, let's get that. All right, I got it up in the air. What I'm seeing on this, whew, okay, let's go. So here, there is the tensioner. Told you the bearing was missing. Not even there anymore. Look at all the metal ground out from the front cover. So yeah, we're gonna have to fix that. Next up, brakes. That's metal to metal. So we're going to take the wheels off. Now here's the thing. When I inspect brakes, if I can see through the wheel, then I'm good with that, up to the point of if I think it needs brakes. If I could look through the wheel and say, okay, these brakes are fine, I know, I'm confident they're fine, I don't go any further. However, I look at it, I'm even questioning what I'm looking at, I'm pulling the wheels off. That's what you need to do. That's the right thing to do. Don't look through a wheel and say, oh, the brakes are low, and then sell brakes that way. Pull the wheels off. A couple things have happened, not to me, but to other people that I've seen. They'll go ahead and they'll sell brakes and then pull the wheels off, and guess what? It doesn't need brakes. It just looks like it does because of the angle you're looking at it. Another thing I've seen is people won't pull the wheels, and then all of a sudden they realize they need more than just pads. you know, they need a caliper or whatever. So a lot of times I'll pull the wheel off and I'll actually make sure that the caliper moves. This way I don't have to make a second phone call. I'd rather make one phone call and be done with it. But let me show you here real quick. In the back, it doesn't need brakes. So here, the wheel is on. And when I do, you look, here, I can look in. Okay, there's the edge of the pad. And if you go from underneath here, it's kind of hard to see through the camera's lens, but there is a good, I don't know, 5 millimeters, 6 millimeters there. And come around to this side, looking on the back side, same thing. Yeah, I could tell that I don't need to sell brakes on this. Come over to this side. Same thing. All looks good. Now there's another trick, because sometimes if I'm like, yeah, the brakes are fine, but let me just absolutely make sure. There's another trick without pulling the wheels. Let me show you that. Another trick is this tool. Take a 90-degree pick like this. So I go in here. Okay, so how thick is the pad? And I'll go in between the rotor and the back of the metal of the backing, the metal backing of the pad. And you know, I'm moving that a good 5-6 millimeters. I know there's plenty of material in between the pad and the metal of the pad. Drop my pick. You know, and same thing in the back side of the pads. Come in and I can go, okay, you know what? There's plenty of material there. I don't need to sell brakes. The brakes are fine. One other thing I just noticed too is this thing clunks and bangs around on the road. I don't know if they're going to want to fix it. They probably won't want to fix this particular problem. That non-existent shock pushing. As you can see, it's beating up the rear differential right there. Now this side is. This side is not too far behind. But now, the next thing I saw, and this is dangerous, so they're going to want to fix this, and I'm not even going to give them a choice on this one. I'm telling them this is what it's going to be. Ball joints. Now on this side, let me show you. Oops, sorry. On this side, all right, there you can see it's the boot is missing and everything else, but that's just me pushing with my hand. You know, I mean, the truck weighs 4,500, 5,000 pounds. I'm just doing that with my hand. Imagine how much play is actually in that. Now come to this. Oh, here, let me just show you real quick. Sorry. So this is the ball joint flange. So when you're pressing out the ball joint, this edge is pressing into this part, which is the control arm. Let me grab. Sorry. So this piece is the ball joint here, up to this edge. This piece is the control arm. So the control arm has this little tower, so to speak, or this push-out section. So this piece is going to press into this piece. So when this piece meets this piece, it stops. Now let's come to this side. See what I'm saying? This thing actually came separated from one another. So this thing's beating out the control arm. So it's going to need a control arm. Now the only other choice, because they don't use this thing on the road all that much, the only other choice here is I could put a ball joint in this. And like I said, this truck is really not used on the road. And this is the only time I would even recommend, not even recommend it, I don't recommend it. But because it's not really used on the road, except to come here or to go get gas. That's really it. I may be willing to take the ball joint out, put the new one in, and weld it in place. I usually only do that on an absolute emergency basis, or a situation where a car is not even registered. I don't even know if this car is registered, to be honest with you. It might not be. But like I said, the only time it's on the road is to go to and from the gas station and to be on the the farm for whatever reason, to go from one farm section to another. That's the only time it's ever on the actual road. It may not even be registered. So, I mean, it's a thought. I probably won't do that. I'm going to recommend a control arm. So, I got to take a look at the uppers. I'm not sure if the uppers are any good, upper control arms, but we'll see. Because to do that, I'm going to have to let it down and put a jack stand underneath it, which you put a jack stand underneath it, close to the outside edge, or you put a floor jack underneath here, and you jack it up to take some tension off the top, or to take some tension off the suspension. And in this way, if you push in on the upper part of the wheel, you push in when it's loaded like that, you should be able to get movement out of it if that ball joint's worn or the bushings are worn. So, all right, let me do that and see where we go with this. Alright, so here's a great visual of what I'm dealing with here, or how worn these ball joints are. I'm going to put a pry bar on the top, ready? See how worn that is? That's ready to fall out. Alright, now this side where it beat through the lower control arm, check this out. Couldn't see this from up top. But you see what I'm looking at there? That piece, that's the actual ball of the ball joint. It blew through the top. That's how worn this thing is. Yeah. So I've actually never seen a ball joint that worn in my life. That is absolutely incredible. And it's still holding together. That is incredible that it didn't break through and fall off. Wow. Unreal. Alright, so I spoke with the customer on this F150 here, and the truck is not on the road anymore. It's only used on the farm. So he asked, could I try, popping in a ball joint and welding it would work and whatnot. He said, try that first. I said, okay, I will try that first. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go that route. Basically, I'm going to disassemble everything in the front. Since I'm doing brakes anyway, I may as well just pop the spindle completely off and just have it out of my way. So at this point, what I'm doing is I'm going to take the caliper and the bridge off. Since I've got to do brake pads and rotors anyway, I'm going to take the rotor off. I'll take the ABS sensor out. Obviously, I'm going to hang the caliper up somewhere. And then I'm going to take the upper and lower ball joint nuts off just to separate the knuckle. And I'll probably I might take the tie rod end off here. I'll see how it goes as I get further into it. And then this way, I don't have to worry about it. And I might just do that just to make my life easier. This way I could press it right on the vehicle. Alright, so let's get going with that. As you see, I pulled the caliper off. One thing you do is whenever you pull a caliper off and you're going to have it hanging, don't let it just dangle by the hose itself. You can ruin the hose. Have something that holds it up. Yeah, there's a little bit of tension on, but nothing, the weight of the caliper is not on the hose. That's nothing there really. So, yeah, just do that because you can ruin the hose, and I've actually seen a super heavy caliper actually pull the hose apart. I have seen that. So, just something to keep in mind. Every time I touch something, I find something else. So, I got the rotor off, obviously. I took the backing plate off only because I don't want to damage it. It's only 3 bolts. It's pretty simple. I took the ABS sensor out because I don't want to damage it. It's just sitting out of the way. I separated the upper control arm, and all of a sudden I go like this. Notice something? The whole bushing's turning. Not supposed to turn. And check this out. See the gap? Right in there? See that? So, upper control arm's not even tight. And yeah, it's got that stopper in there, but I can see the witness marks where it's been banging around. The thing wasn't even tight. I don't know who serviced this thing last time, or whoever did this work. It certainly wasn't us. Alright, let me keep going. I'm going to have to straighten that out, obviously. Alright, so there we go. Everything's separated. It came apart pretty easy. And I just leave it hanging from the tie rod. It's not going to hurt nothing. So, yeah, look at that. That is... See that? I have never in my life seen a ball joint that worn before. That is truly amazing. You see the whole thing is moving in the arm itself. Yeah. So I'm going to see if I can get the new one to even sit in there correctly. So I'm going to probably have to weld it together. Now some of you may be thinking, oh, welding a ball joint, oh my God, you can't do that. Well, back many years ago, the old Dodge, what's referred to as the B van, the letter B, the old rear-wheel drive vans that had, either the slant 6 or you get the V6 on the later model ones, the 318 or the 360. Even a rare one I saw was a 400. I think it was a 76. But anyway, those had screw-in upper ball joints, and it was a large ball joint. It was a stamped steel arm like this, but on top, and the upper ball joint was a screw-in. I don't recall if the bottom one was too. It might have been, but the upper ones had a tendency to strip, and there's a special socket you use to take them off and put them on. It's a large, weird socket. It's very shallow, and you would screw it in place. And a lot of times the fix was, once you screwed them down, you put a bead of weld on them to hold them in place. That was a common practice. So welding it in place, you know, it's not like I'm gonna, you know, put a whole full bead all the way around the darn thing. I'd probably, you know, do you know, at like the 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock position, you know, like a nice little 1-inch long weld. If it comes down to it, I got to see how it presses in. You never know, it could press in fine. I've seen stranger things. So, all right, let me get on with that, and I'm actually going to save this ball joint for myself, because I've never seen anything like this before. Well, there you go. It actually fell apart when I went to go take it out. That is actually amazing. I hit it from the bottom and this thing flopped out the top, and then I just whacked it with the hammer several times and this thing fell out the bottom after I took the retaining clip off. The hole actually doesn't look that bad, all things considered. It doesn't seem to be all that smashed up or beat out. Let me see how the new ball joint fits. Alright, so much to my surprise, here's the new ball joint. And it doesn't just pop in, it's going in tight. So what I'm going to have to do is get my ball joint press, and I'm going to actually have to press this in. So I'm going to press it in, and then I'll determine if I think it should be welded or not. Because like I said, it might be a tight fit. Alright, so that's in place. I am happy with the way that came out. It's fully seated and it's tight, so I'm good with that. Here, the clip is in, the grease fitting's in. Always make sure you aim the grease fitting in a way that you can get to it once it's all together. I put it to that side only because the caliper's in the back. It might be a little more difficult to get to it, but at least this way I can cut the wheels to one side. I should be able to get to it, no problem. Alright, so now this gets to all go back together. Alright, so that's it. This side's all back together, and I got to do the other side. I'm still waiting on a belt tensioner to show up. So I think I'm going to call it on this video. Like I said, I got the upper control arm nice and tight now. As you could see, I mean, just look at the witness mark on the bolt. You can see how far that tightened up. I mean, that thing was just falling out. It was so loose. And on this side, it was slightly tight. You can still see some witness mark to it. So, but that's it. This is all going to go back together. It really should get in alignment, but since it's just a farm truck, I'm not too worried about it. Alright, that's it. If you're getting anything out of my videos, hit the like button. If you could, please subscribe. That's it for today. Have a great day. Keep wrenching.